Hi, in this video, we are going to start working on our index page. As you know, in our index page, we are showing all the listed NFTs and we are rendering their image, followed with the description, the name, and the price that they are selling for with a buy button. We are going to handle all this logic in the index page, and in order to help us, I have the boilerplate HTML CSS code, and we are going to fill in the NFT or marketplace basics from here. This index page is going to call the component listing card, and inside this listing card, we are actually going to show the card that represents the listing. So for beginning, let's actually get the listings, and for all the listings, we are going to do a map of rendering listing cards. So let's start off with getting the marketplace contract. Get marketplace contract. So with this marketplace contract, we will get all valid direct listings. In our application, we define the listing with starting timestamp and time it will take for listing. So once this time is finished, this listing will become invalid and the users will not be able to buy from that listing. So that's why we need to use only valid ones, not all of the listings, but just the valid ones that can be bought and sold at this time. For that, let's provide the marketplace with some arguments, just like what we did in ID page. It's going to take start from 0 and count of 100. In this case, we are actually using a function that is specifically designed for Marketplace v3. And for that reason, actually, let's have a different experience of using use contract. And in that use contract version, we can actually define which version of Marketplace we are using. So let's say contracts is equal to use contract. And as you know, this use contract gets contract address with parameters. So contract address is get marketplace address. And it's going to be followed with marketplace v3. Since we are using the third version of the marketplace in our smart contract, we can actually call it like this. And let's call this contract marketplace. And here you go, that the error is resolved right now. Similar to our existing logic, let's have a ternary for is loading. Because while the marketplace data is loading, we want to render out a text. And in case it's not, we can actually show this. So inside this is loading, let's show with text center. Let's say loading NFT marketplace data. So once this is loading is finished, we will have actually get the direct listings. For that, let's rename this data to direct listing. And as you can see, I have already defined a grid so that we can save some time without me writing in CSS code. Inside this grid, let's check if direct listings exist. And if the direct listings exist, let's do a mapping of them. .map. So in case you're not familiar with map, it just creates another array, which is copy of this direct listings. And it's going to do an action that we will define right now. So it will get a direct listing from each element of the array, and it's going to return the listing card. And this listing card is going to get the NFT as parameter. And we call this listed NFT. So you can just use a syntax like this. In front-end code, this HTML elements needs to be differentiated. So we need to use an ID as well. And this ID is going to be the key that actually separates one listing card from another. Therefore, we will not see any warnings in the console of the browser that we are running in. Now our listing cards are all set with the NFT data, but if you check inside, let's actually remove this unused import. If you check inside, it's getting the NFT, but it's not doing anything with it at the moment, because in the template that we will provide you, the smart contract interactions are deleted. So we are actually going to implement them together. For that, So since we have the NFT, we can just render the image of the NFT. We were using third web media provider, but let me show you what we can do with the simple image tag as well. We don't need to be depending on third web's functions alone. Just to give you an alternative. This is where our image is in nft.asset.image. You can just do like a console log to be familiar with what listing type is. And let's have like a class name of full width with defined height. Let's say object contain, so that our image will be contained inside this card. So we will see all the image. And let's say like rounded MD stands for medium order radius, and let's set Z index of 0. And as you can see, this string null or undefined is not assignable to the image source. And this is what third web media component was handling for us, but we can just do like this to make that error go away. And also have a style tag that says min height, min width to 100%, and min height to 100% as well. But these should be separate strings. So here we go. And after that, we want to define the name in here. And for that, we will use nft.asset again, because everything in this NFT section, this ID, price per token, quantity, is data from the listing, not the NFT itself. The NFT actually lives in this asset, and inside this asset, we can see the name. Similarly, for description, we will just do like nft.asset.description. And for the price, we can use a backtick for concatenating strings with JavaScript variables. Let's say for with first variable stating the actual price, currency value per token dot display value. As you know from this ID page, this display value doesn't have the symbol. So let's print it out separately with a space. Then NFT dot currency per token dot symbol. And with this, we are actually done. But what we don't have is this handle listing. So this handle listing function will actually buy the listing. So we have a button called buy, but that's not doing anything at the moment. So let's fill in the details of this. So first thing we need to do is get the use wallet direct listings. And we were providing arguments of count and start, but this time we are going to get a specific listing with a specific ID. So for that, let's start off with actually getting the marketplace, because we are going to need it. So this is going to return data as always. Let's call it direct listing this time, not plural. So let's get NFT address from get NFT address. And let's actually get marketplace contract. So inside of here, let's give marketplace followed with the argument of token contract, NFT address, and token ID is nft.asset.id. So now we have the direct listing that we want to buy from. So inside this handle listing, let's do a try catch. Let's do a console log of error buying with the error itself. And what we are going to try is, actually, let's make something different this time. And we get the direct listing, but in the third web documentation, you will see that there is no actual direct hook to buy from listing in React. So we need to do like a JavaScript implementation of it. That's why it's going to be a bit different this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to call marketplace.direct listings. And from there, we are going to actually call buy from listing. And this requires a listing ID and the quantity desired. So the quantity desired is going to be 1. And the listing ID is going to be direct listing that we have get from this use wallet direct listings. So it's going to return us an array, actually, since we haven't defined the start and count, but By default, this use valid direct listings return us an array. So what we need to do is we need to get the first one from here. But this is a listing itself. So we are looking for the ID. So we are going to use dot ID. And as I mentioned, this asset.id is NFT's ID, but this ID in the top level is the actual listing ID. But it says that direct listing can be undefined, and it's true. So we need to have a condition for checking that. So let's check if direct listing exists. And in case it doesn't, do this if direct listing already exists. And since we are calling this function directly, we are not using a hook provided by ThirdWeb. This is all going to be an async function. So we are going to get a result. We should use this await, therefore making this function async altogether. In case we have res defined and res.receive exists, then we know that we have a successful buy. And also what we can do in this case is that with this implementation, user can buy his or her own tokens, and the ThirdWeb will not give an error for this, will not give immediately an error for this. And this is something we can check on the front end. For this, I'm going to use address with use address from ThirdWeb. So this is going to return us the address of the connected wallet. And we are going to check if this direct listing is 0. The first one, that's creator. This on the third one, this creator address is the address of who listed this listing, and it shouldn't be equal to our own address. And in case it is, let's handle this case as well. As you can see, we don't have loading or an error state, so we have a message state in here. And we are constantly showing this message if the content is full. For this class, we are going to handle error and loading cases with this message. So once the operation has started, we are going to set message to buying in process, or maybe just buying with 3 dots. And in case we have a result and a receipt from it, we can just print out both. And in the else statement, we can just say already yours, since that's the one, that's the condition, since that's the condition we are checking, if the direct listing is ours. And in this, we can actually set message to error buying. So we will show the actual content of the error in the console so that our UI will look a bit cleaner, even when there's an error. But when there's an error, we should be able to tell from a message with a exclamation point in the end. This is it basically. And let's have like a wrap up of what we did. So different from the other contract interactions, we don't have actually a hook provided by ThirdWeb. So we are using our own methods, our own async method to handle if it's loading or if there's an error with this if cases. And we are actually have a wrapper of try catch so that our application will not break even if we have an error. When the buying is started, when this if check is okay, we are setting the message of buying. Then we are actually attempting to buy from listing with the ID and quantity. When we have the results of this promise result and we have a receipt, we can just say bought, because this receipt is going to be a transaction receipt and it will be only available to us if we actually have a result. And in case we have an error during this process, this try catch block will catch it and we will set the message to error buying. And this will isolate the buying logic in the listing card. So the index will compose just of the UI and getting the actual direct listing. So this was it for this video.